Citybridge Church Online. Wherever you may be and however you may be watching, we're glad you chose to worship with us. Whether it's your first time or your 50th time, it's great to have you joining us. Let's get into a few announcements so you can know how we do things here at Citybridge. If you haven't been to our website yet, head over to wearecitybridge.com because we have a ton of stuff you'll want to be a part of over there. wearecitybridge.com is where we have our Connect cards, giving, growth tracks, baptism signups, and everything you could ever want to know about Citybridge. If you're just getting started with us here at Citybridge, we'd love for you to fill out a Connect card. This is just a way for us to get to know you a little better and for you to reach out to us if you have any questions about us as a church. And don't worry, we aren't going to come knocking on your door or blowing up your phone or anything like that. We have a no-hassle guarantee. So make today the day you fill out that Connect card to start your journey here at Citybridge. One way that we worship is through our financial giving. We believe that God is the ultimate giver who blesses us with everything we have. So we use our tithe, the first 10% of our income, as a way to give back to God and honor Him for providing for us. You can give safely, securely, and conveniently right here on the Citybridge website. Have you started a new relationship with Jesus and want to make it public? Well, then let's get you baptized. Sign up for a time to get baptized in water and take that next step of following Christ by sharing with your church family this inward transformation through an outward expression of baptism. And for those of you who are already in a relationship with Jesus and are ready to start learning more about church, following Jesus, and serving God, we've got this cool thing called Growth Track. This is a 3-week course that's hosted live on Zoom by Pastor Bobby. Each week covers a different topic. Church 101 teaches you about who we are at Citybridge and gives you an opportunity to officially join Citybridge in membership. Essentials 201 is all about the building blocks of what we believe and how we can better become followers of Christ. And Discovery 301 helps you learn more about your gifts and how you can use those gifts to serve the Lord and make a difference in the world. So get signed up for Growth Tracks today. We want you to be able to stay up to date on what's going on here at Citybridge. So if you want to stay in the loop, just text "the loop" with no spaces to 97000 and you'll stay informed on a weekly basis. Again, just text "the loop" with no spaces to 97000. There's tons more information about our church on wearecitybridge.com, so feel free to take some time to look around and explore and to learn more about who we are. But as far as announcements go, that's pretty much it. Again, we're so glad you joined us today. Now on to the rest of the service.
Here are some steps to help you experience today's message at the most pleasing quality. If you are on a desktop, laptop, or on a personal computer, you can turn on subtitles by going to the bottom right corner of the screen and clicking the subtitles button. If you are on an iPhone or an Android device, you can turn on subtitles by going to the top right corner of the screen and clicking on the CC button. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy today's message.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to Citybridge Church Online. If you're new with us today, my name's Bobby Lepine, and my hope and prayer from the deepest place in my heart is that whoever you are, whether you're watching now or you're watching weeks from now or months from now or even years from now, my hope and my prayer is that God would really impact you with this message and that it would be something that really does make a difference in your life from this point on. So, as I mentioned last week, we skipped the week this past Sunday. My wife and I, Robin, are celebrating our 8th anniversary for this whole week. And so, as I said, we were going to New Orleans. So we went to New Orleans, and, we try to go at least once a year, hopefully twice a year. And as long as it's not in summer when it's miserable there, we try to make a trip there. And it's just, a whole unique environment. So, what we try to do is find great restaurants. And so we basically, some of the, we got in late Sunday night and went to a great pizza restaurant called Louisiana Pizza Kitchen, which I can honestly say, and I'm a pizza connoisseur, but I've had all the Chicago pizzas. My favorite pizza of all time is Lou Malnati's in Chicago. Their butter crust is to die for, and they make homemade sausage. But this one was a close second. And so we had all meat pizza, and had like these big pieces of meat, not just little, sprinkles of it. But anyway, the next day we went to Mother's, which of course it's been in New Orleans since 1931. It's an institution. Amazing breakfast, homemade sausage with grits, and veggie omelet was spectacular. It was so big we split it. And then that night we went and had an anniversary dinner at a pretty new restaurant called Briquettes, which was fantastic. And I got a Groupon for it, so that made it even better. And then on Tuesday, I don't know how to put this, but we went e-bike riding. And so they didn't have a tour guide, so they just basically gave us a helmet and said, follow traffic rules. Well, as soon as we got out, we get on busy Canal Street, and let me just say, my poor wife, she was terrified. I was pretty scared, but I was just thinking, how are we going to get out of this? But anyway, we ended up making our way across town to the Pontchartrain Lakeside, to the City Park, which is an amazing, beyond Central Park in New York City, I think the best park in America. And we went to the art museum, had a great time. But anyway, guys, we just are so thankful for the last 8 years, and plan until Jesus come back to enjoy each other. And so anyway, what I want to do now is I want to dive into the new series that we're starting today. It's called You Don't Have What It Takes. And the bottom line is that many of us folks live our lives like it's a three-ring circus. There's just everything bleeds into everything else. We're busy juggling this, juggling that, juggling this, juggling that. And it's as we're going to see, this is not how God designed us to be. And so I want to take these next 4 Sundays to unpack this. Today we're going to be talking about you can't handle it all. Let me say that again. You can't. I can't handle everything. We can't handle it all. So I'm going to pray, and we're going to dive in. Father in heaven, I want to thank you for each and every one of my friends, whether new or old friends, Lord, that are watching this. Lord, I just pray by your sovereign grace that you would lead the right people to watch this, God, that really need help in the areas we're going to talk about. And Father, I just thank you for the privilege of ministering to your people. In Jesus' name, amen. So, guys, I want to start out by taking you back in my life to the year of 2006. I was 43 years old, plainly in midlife. And my life, talking about a three-ring circus, my life was like a seven-ring circus, and so I had the church, which was just turning 10 years old, Harvest at the time, and that was just took so much time because I was doing everything myself. I was doing all the counseling, the preaching, you name it. And, it was just a load, but I wasn't getting paid full time, so I also had a business on the side, and that took up a lot of my time. I had employees, which, that always requires extra work with employees. But my kids, they were all in the ages between, 12 and 18. All three of them. And so life revolved around like being a taxi, driving kids here, there, everywhere, just going to games, going to this, going to that. And on top of that, my parents were facing the end of their life, and both of them were they were within 2 years. My mom was within months of passing. My dad was within 2 years. But I had a lot of responsibilities from my parents. On top of that, our church had gotten into a lawsuit with another church that was supposed to be selling us a theater, the old Plaza Theater, right off of Fairfield. It used to be there. It's an emergency place now, emergency vehicle repair. But anyway, we had given this other church $100,000 as a down payment, and basically we're trying to do a lease purchase option. Well, Hurricane Ivan came, destroyed it all. That church used the insurance money that was supposed to go to the repairs, and long story short, we ended up with a 6-year ordeal that just was exhausting beyond words. And on top of that, physically, because I was going, not going to sleep until oftentimes 2 in the morning, even 2:30, 3 o'clock, and get up at 6 at the latest. I was just, I was burning it on both ends. And so I remember it like yesterday. I started getting chest pains, and literally the day of June 10th, which is a day that in my life will live in infamy, I did not sleep a wink that night. And whenever I got out to my office, I literally could not think a thought. And so, I didn't know what was going on. And so I made an appointment with my doctor, and I was just fried. I literally could not, I couldn't do my daytime, I couldn't do anything. And so I made an appointment with my doctor and went to meet him. And he told me, he said, tell me about what's going on. So I told him everything I just mentioned to you guys. And he said, Mr. Lepine, he said, listen, first of all, let me tell you that I can count 7 major life things, events, major life transitions that you're going through that normally 2, maybe 3 at the most, the average person will just have an emotional breakdown and crash. And he said, you're way beyond. And he says, so the second thing I want to say is, you're not God. And he said, I know you're a pastor, but you're not God. And you're going to have to redo your whole life. And, so I began, and he put me on medication, which I resisted for a long time. But he told me, he said, listen, you've stripped your brain of dopamine, and which is to help you feel good. And he said, we've got to at least get you bumped up to normal. So anyway, guys, long story short, I came home and was decided to do some floor time, which is I'd get on my face before God and with His Word. And so I was reading 2 Samuel 21 that day. And I was a mess, man. I mean, I was a mess. And I was just crying out to God because I'd never experienced anything like this. And so I felt the Lord highlight this passage to me, as I had gotten in position to seek Him. And 2 Samuel 21, it's about David. And, remember David who killed Goliath. Well, most people don't realize that Goliath had brothers and cousins and you name it. And so, with the Philistines, so it says there in verse 15, it says, once again the Philistines were at war with Israel. And when David and his men were in the thick of battle, listen to this, David became overwhelmed and exhausted. Ishbi-benob, what a name, was a descendant of the giants, Goliath. His bronze spearhead weighed more than 7 pounds, and he was armed with a new sword. He had cornered David and was about to kill him. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue and killed the Philistine. Then David's men declared, you are not going out to battle with us again. So you are stopping what you've been doing from this point. Why risk snuffing out the light of Israel? So basically what they were telling him is, listen, you're not doing this anymore. You're not going to go, we've got it. We've got it under control, and you need to tend to greater matters than going out to battle. And so, a key phrase that really struck me in this was that where it says there in verse 15 that David became overwhelmed and exhausted. And that, folks, is what struck me, is that was exactly where I found myself. back in 2006, completely overwhelmed. And I looked up back then, and I'll give them to you here, some synonyms for overwhelmed. So, crushed, deluged, engulfed, oppressed, overworked, sinking. Ever feel like you're sinking in quicksand? Submerged, swamped, smothered, ground down, out of it. Have you ever felt like that? Well, I believe, folks, that really truly describes where some of you find yourself as you're watching this right now. And you just may have accidentally clicked on this, through Facebook. But bottom line is, God sovereignly chose this time for you, for where you're at now, to hear this message. And he wants you to know that it's not his will that you would live life overwhelmed. And so, every area, this thing of being overwhelmed, it affects every area of our life. And so, you'll see there on your outline, we get out of shape physically. We stop moving. We stop doing the things of taking care. We don't have time. I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time. We get out of sorts emotionally. We just, like I said, we start to frazzle and get touchy, easy to get lit up and emotionally charged. We get out of touch relationally. We lose connection with those that we love because, again, we're running, going. And even when we're with the people we love and care about, we're not really all there. Our mind is someplace else. And then finally, we get out of order spiritually. That means that we put God, rather than putting him first, we put him behind the line. And again, we have so many things going that we have no time for the word and for prayer. I know that pre-2006, when I was life was a 7-ring circus, not a 3-ring, but a 7-ring circus with all things going on. I really intended I'd get up early to spend time with the Lord. And if I'd get on my face before God, I'd be asleep within 5 minutes because I was exhausted. And then I'd feel guilty, condemned. I'd try to do it at night if I missed the morning, and that was a complete waste of time because I was so exhausted I'd fall asleep then too. And so, folks, if this describes you and where you're at right now, I just want to tell you, listen, it's time for a come to Jesus meeting. What does that mean? When a come to Jesus meeting is where somebody tells you, hey, let's stop here. It's like a sign, do not pass. Do not go past this mark. Danger ahead. And so, as I said, God never intended us to live this way. But what are we going to do? I want to give you 2 practical things, and I'm going to unpack these a little bit. But the first thing we're going to have to do is to take inventory of our life. Let me say that again. We're going to have to take inventory of our life. And so, just like with a business, we've got to list out. And that's what I did back in 2006. I had an older couple that had been through, a pastor who was old, about 20, 30 years older than me. He had gone through the same thing, and he said, listen, you need to write down everything that you are doing, everything that you're responsible for, every task, everything, whether it's changing the oil, taking care of the car, parents, whatever it is, you've got to list it all down, all that you're responsible for. And then this is the second thing, and this is the most important thing, is after you've taken inventory of your life, is that you need to take immediate action. Most people, and I was like this before 2006, it's like, well, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to slow down. I'm going to try to, take a day off. I'm going to try. Folks, let me tell you, trying never ever gets it done. You've got to immediately, number one, take inventory. And I did it. I encourage you, do a list. On half of the side of the sheet of paper, have all that you do, all you're responsible for. On the other half, you're going to have action items. You're going to have things that you're going to do. And as I'm going to unpack this here, namely 3 things, that ways that we're going to get things off of us, ways that we're going to get out of being overwhelmed all the time, where we're going to be enjoying life, not just passing through it. And so the first thing, the 3 lenses I want to give you, is that first of all, some things in your life need to be shared. Let me say that again. There are things in your life that you are doing that need to be shared. I love the story in Exodus 18 about Moses. And if you know the story, Exodus 18, Moses is sitting down to judge the disputes of 6 million Jews. If you can only imagine, unconverted Jews, who you can only imagine all the, the offenses and the things that they had against each other and whatnot. But Moses would sit down, it says, from day until morning till night, judging the people's disputes. And so let me start out in Exodus, I think it's Exodus 18:14. But anyway, it says, the next day Moses took his seat to hear the people's dispute against each other. And so this is Jethro, his father-in-law, who's going to give him some advice here. The people waited before Moses from morning until evening. If you can imagine, they're bickering about that as well, about when is he ever going to get to me. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing, he asked, what are you really trying to accomplish here? Why are you trying to do all this alone while everyone stands around you from morning till evening? Moses replied, because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I am the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions. This is not good, Jethro exclaimed, Moses' father-in-law. You're going to wear yourself out, and you're going to wear the people out as well. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me, and let me give you a word of advice, and may God be with you. Select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,000, groups of 100, under that, groups of 50, then groups of 10. They should always be available to solve the people's common disputes, but have them bring the major cases to you. Now listen to this. Let the leaders decide the smaller matters themselves. They will help you carry the load, making the task easier for you. I want to say 2 things here, and I want to first of all point out where it says there, let the leaders decide the smaller matters themselves. Oftentimes, folks, we give a task to people, but we really don't let them make the decisions about whatever we've delegated to them. I know that back when my kids were growing up, I had mowed the lawn all the years when they were little, but my son, Michael, when he became I want to say 11 or 12, I decided to let him take over the chore of mowing the lawn. And man, the first time he was out there, I showed him what to do. But my gosh, I came home from wherever I'd gone while he was mowing the lawn, and it was atrocious. It was terrible. He had left big old patches of grass. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this myself. And so I took it back over, but then I realized, this is silly. I'm spending 2.5 hours doing something, that my son should be able to do. And so I put him back on it. And you know what? I'll tell you, within a matter of months, he had really gotten even better than me and took pride in mowing the lawn well. And then when he left the house, Brittany took over, my daughter, and she's much more meticulous, and so she did a great job. But anyway, guys, long story short is once we were empty nest, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I am not doing this anymore. And so I hired a lawn keeping company, and that was one of the best things I've ever done. And let me just put it this way, guys: there's good money spent and there's bad money spent. Good money spent is money spent on taking things off your plate that you aren't good at, or things that others can do just as good as you, or maybe just a little bit less. Sometimes control freaks, and I'm naturally one, and I have to control my tendencies of my control freak personality. But I just have to chill out and say, you know what? It doesn't have to be done perfect. Not everything has to be done perfect. And and like I said, we've got to learn, and that's the second thing, is that we've got to learn how to delegate. And so, as I said, it doesn't come natural for many of us, control freaks, but again, we've got to learn. Delegation is something we learn. It's not natural to a control person. We want to have everything right, everything done perfect. But listen, guys, again, that's a sure route to burnout. That's a sure route to exhaustion. So we've got to, first of all, look at the things in our life that we can share, we can let go of, and let others share the responsibility and take the responsibility off of our plate. Second thing, we've got to learn some things, and we got to look at things that need to be shared. The second thing, and we're going to put that on the left side, share. Second thing is stop. There's things in your life, guys, that just plain and simple need to be stopped. Psalm 46:10 says this. David the psalmist writes, "Be still," prophetically, "be still and know that I am God." This is an interesting word here for be still. The word in Hebrew is rapha. Rapha. You'll see the pronunciation there. And it literally means, this is interesting, to cease, to forsake, to let go of. Let me say that again. To cease, to forsake, to let go of. And so God is saying, in be still and know that I am God, he's saying, stop. There's things you need to cease. There's things you need to forsake. There's things you need to let go of. There's things you need to drop. Instead of balancing all the plates all the time, sometimes, and in 2006, all those plates came crashing down in my life. And you know what? God is saying, hey, be intentional. Be still. Let go of some things. And know that you aren't God, as my doctor told me. I am God. He alone is omnipresent, present. That means he alone is able to have, not just a 3-ring circus, but, a million circus with every human being on earth, because he alone is God. But you, and I want you to say with me, say, I am not God. There's one God, and I am not him. And so, again, folks, we want to put down on our list, on our action items, we're going to take inventory of our life, first of all the things we're responsible for. But second, we're going to list down our action items. And we're going to have, first of all, things that need to be shared. Second, things that just plain old need to be stopped. And then third, things that need to be started. Things that need to be started. And I want to talk about, for a moment, the Sabbath. Because I think that, most Christians really don't understand the Sabbath. They think that it's the law, that we no longer are under the law. And so in the America, in the West, to to rest is seen as almost a sin, and you should feel guilty because you're resting. You've got to give the illusion that you're always going, you're always productive. And we're so addicted to productivity that we don't realize that was not God's order from the very beginning. It's not the law. Listen to this. In Genesis 1, way before the law was given, it says that God in the 6 days created, but on the seventh day, what did he do? He rested. He rested. Now let me ask you, does God need to rest? No. He's God. Why then did he rest on the seventh day? Because he was laying out an eternal principle for our good. Jesus said the Sabbath was made for man, for our good. That's what the Sabbath was made for. Man wasn't, the Sabbath wasn't made, or the man wasn't made to be a slave to the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made to serve man. And so, back in 2012, I went to Israel, and I'll never forget, guys, it was Friday, and we had arrived in Jerusalem. It was about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and, I'm in my room with my friend Roger Hurth and Robert Pooley. We had gone together, and Vicky. But we're in the room and just trying to catch up on an email, and all of a sudden, the power goes out and the internet goes out, and it's like, okay, what in the world? So we went down to the lobby and asked the lady at the counter, what's going on? And she said, it's Shabbat. I said, what? She said, Shabbat. And I said, okay, why is everything off? She said, because it's Shabbat. It's the day of the week that every week, everything, we as Jewish people, everything turns off. There's no driving, there's no traffic, no restaurants open, nothing open. From sundown on Friday until sundown on Saturday, we rest. We spend time with our family. We play games. We recreate. We read. We take naps. We eat together. And that night, I had my first Shabbat or Sabbath meal. Shabbat is what they call it. And it was so awesome, guys. I'll just tell you, listen, I was blown away. It was like I couldn't believe. I was like, how can I be a pastor all of these years, 30 years at that time, and not have gotten this? How did I miss this? So when I came home from Israel, I was determined, I am changing this, and I'm going to find a day a week where I'm going to get rested. I'm going to rest. I'm going to be able to recharge. I'm going to be able to renew to face the rest of the week. And so, I literally did Friday evening till Saturday evening. Just again, I was very intentional about it. And I had heard Rick Warren, of Saddleback Church, said something that helped me so much. He said, listen, write this down. He said, we all need to divert daily. Divert, that means do something, go to the gym, run, walk, whatever, a diversion, if it's taking a bath, whatever. So divert daily, withdraw weekly. That's a Sabbath. That's 1 day a week where we give it to renewal, we give it to God, to the worship of God. We're not doing what we normally do. The word Sabbath, by the way, means to cease. So we cease our productivity, and we cease trying to be all things to all people. So divert daily, withdraw weekly, and then abandon annually. And what he said is he and Kay, his wife, try to take 2 weeks a year to just abandon everything. And so the church, everything, they just focus on replenishment, on each other, on recreating, once a year. And then, like I said, that's how they avoid burnout. And I just want to tell you guys, listen, we need to take this seriously. I mean this. Like I said, I went through what I went through in 2006, and I believe that God allowed me sovereignly to go through that so that I could help people like you. and those out there that are living this crazy American lifestyle of always, 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 always having to be on the go, always, always, always working, doing. And that's not how God designed us. He's not that's a assured recipe for disaster. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do as we're talking about some things that we need to start. Is you'll see there on your outline, spiritual. What do you need to start? And I just want to suggest, have a time as early as you can before you're wasted and exhausted, a time in the Word and prayer. And what I do, folks, it's so simple and it's enjoyable. That's a big thing. It's got to be enjoyable. But I've got my YouVersion Bible app on my phone, and every day there's a verse of the day, that about 2-minute little, explanation by somebody. But then from there I go to my Bible reading plan, and it's, I use the 1-year Bible. Every year I try to go through the Bible. And so sometimes I'll scan through some of the Old Testament, if it's the prophets or things that, can be laborious, I'll just say, to read through. It's God's Word, but, these are things that, were for God's Old Testament people. But I'll always go through the New Testament passage and pray through it. As something touches me, I'll pray off of that to the Father, and then Psalms. They have a portion of the Psalms and then a proverb every day. But I miss it when I'm not able to do it. And that's a good sign, folks, when you miss time in the Word and time with the Lord over His Word. So I'm asking you, what can you start to get spiritual order back in your life? Second, the physical. What can you do? It's not what can't you do, but what can you do? Join a gym, maybe jog. If not, ride bikes, or just walk. But one way or another, find a way to move. Every day it's important to try to move. And so third, emotional and mental. What are you going to start? And again, I just can't highly recommend enough, guys, really learn about the Sabbath, first of all, and how important it is. But I can't encourage you enough. Start 1 day a week, your Sabbath, to renew, recharge, and rest. And finally, the relational areas of our life, the people that we love, friends, family, planned times of connection. With our kids, I used to go when my kids were growing up once a month on a daddy date with each one. Our spouses, we need to at least once a week try to just spend time together, quality time together, and even daily getting a cup of coffee and just talking. And then, for me, I've got my grandkids, 6 grandkids now. And so on my day timer, I try to once a month be able to spend some time, with them, playing and whatever, and, just really connecting. But anyway, guys, again, by way of review, because I really think this message is so important, and I ask you, share it, please. If you know somebody who really needs this, share it. It can make the difference literally of life and death oftentimes. But, we're talking about in this series, you don't have what it takes. And today we've been talking about the fact that you can't handle it all. Only God can. And so we talked about the fact that, what are we going to do? First of all, we're going to take inventory, and we're going to look at those things that, we're going to take all the things in our life, we're going to list them down. And then second, we're going to take action. We're not just going to try to change, we're going to take action. And, first of all, there's things we need to share, and we're going to write those things down. There's things that we need to stop, and we're going to write those things down and do it. And then third, there's things that we need to start. And so, again, whether it's a Sabbath, whatever it is, joining the gym, again, guys, I just hope you're encouraged. And again, I hope that this spoke to you. That's my prayer. So I want to close with a quick word of prayer, and then again, just share this with whoever you can. Father in heaven, I thank you for this time with my friends. Lord, I pray in Jesus' name that this message would truly, truly, truly make a major difference for the people who get to watch this. And Lord, again, I just thank you for the privilege of serving your people. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, guys, we will see you next weekend, next Sunday, as we continue in part 2 of You Don't Have What It Takes. God bless.